get hitches.
This richest country in the history of the world.
Look! How am I still alive? Look, if there's any last message to the world that I could do, and thank you so much, Joe, for having me on. The one message that I want to die being my legacy is I want every black woman in the world, not just the United States, to have the ability to abort their babies at any point in their pregnancy. But not just this. There's more. I want them to have full ownership of the stem cells and body parts from their offspring that they chopped up. It is unfair and injustice that the companies running these medical industries are benefiting from these women of color aborting their own kids, and they get to run away with all the goodies. So if you elect me, I promise to pass policy that makes sure that every woman in America goes home with the body parts of their mutilated offspring.
Working class people are getting decimated today. And again, we don't talk about it in Congress.
Says the guy who was a million. Remember like 5 years ago, he was all,
look, the millionaires are the problem.
he became a millionaire and he's now like,
The billionaires of the world.
what a goblin.
Hey kids, what are you in 6th grade? Have you ever done cocaine? Let's talk about stuff you shouldn't be introduced to yet.
Congress for reasons that I hope I can get into.
Yeah.
We don't talk about it in the corporate media. 60%, 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Now, I grew up in a family. I don't know your background, but I grew up
I don't know your early childhood section on Wikipedia, but mine is pretty clear.
in a family, live paycheck to paycheck. And anyone who lives paycheck to paycheck understands that every single day is a struggle. You know,
Sell one of your mansions, you goblin.
got to figure out how you feed the kids, rents, cost of housing in America off the charts, healthcare off the charts. So right now, as we talk, there are people worrying. My landlord, is going to raise my rent by 20%. What the hell do I do? Where do I go? What schools do my kid go to?
What should I do? Maybe, here's a suggestion. Get into politics so you could make $1 million and get 7 mansions.
How do I buy decent food for my kids? My mother is ill. How do I afford prescription drugs for my mother?
Hey kids, drugs. Kids, drugs.
My car breaks down.
Your
so
car breaks down? Yeah, okay, buddy, your car breaks down.
If you have money, no one thinks of it. Your car breaks down, go to the mechanic, you get it fixed. You know what? A lot of people don't have $1,000 in the bank right now. If you don't have $1,000, your car breaks down. How do you get to work? If you don't get to work, you get fired. If you get fired, your whole life is disrupted. 60% of American.
How much different is that than past generations?
It's that we've always had rich and poor, no question about it. It's worse now, Joe.
What do you attribute that to?
Look at this guy. Look at that face, dude. This guy's like a professional bullshit artist. It's like a clown. It's like a creepy old man clown. What do you attribute to? I don't know. Immigration. Usury. Exported labor. What is he going to say?
I attribute it to decades-old attacks on the working class of this country.
Well, that's rhetoric, dude. You politician, you schemy greaseball. You should be euthanized. That's meaningless.
The attacks.
What? Meaningless.
I attribute it to
The attacks on the working class. They attacked attacks.
horrific trade agreements
You should be wheeled in a wheelchair right off a cliff.
which have allowed corporate America to throw millions of workers out on the street and move to China, Mexico, and other low-wage countries. I attribute it to a corrupt political system in which billionaires have significant control over both political parties. So that, for example, right now in Washington, the national minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. So you got millions of workers today, making 10, 12, 13 bucks an hour. You tell me, how do people survive on 13 bucks an hour? When we were kids, or at least when I was a kid, you worked for a large company. You had something called a defined benefit pension plan. That means you work for me for 30 years. When you retire, you're going to get X hundreds of dollars a week. That's long gone. Corporations have gotten rid of that. So you got something like half of older workers in America have nothing in the bank when they face retirement. So I think, to answer your question, I think you got a rigged system controlled economically and politically by very, very wealthy and powerful people who could care less.
He forgot to mention, government-secured college loans that not only dilute the value of college by allowing more people to obtain the exact same certificate, having more people graduate with the same exact level, right? But it's paid for by the government, right? You get that. That adds to the decreased wage of that given job, given that the pool went from whatever amount of people to like 5 times. Not only that, but then incentivize the colleges, then the universities who now know, the government's going to secure loans. We should add more things to offer if they're going to secure the loans. We got to expand this. So then you get the opportunity to introduce Marxist bullshit, lesbian horse hooving, lesbian crab diving. And, this guy really, this guy's the worst.
For working families. Now, I don't want to romanticize the old days because that would not be true. But there used to be a kind of a culture. If I was a boss and I ran a factory, I had a little bit of concern for you, right?
Right.
In general, I would say, I know your wife, how's your mom doing and all that stuff. That's gone. You got these companies that are owned by other companies that are owned by supranationals. We got involved in my office. We used to be the chairman of the Labor Committee, Health, Education, Labor.
If capitalism could, why do I have gay faith
and when
free
workers
hair?
went on strike, we would call up and see what was going
That's funny.
on, see how we can help. So we'd call up to the company and we'd say, why are you cutting back on health care for your workers? Well, we don't make
Company.
that decision. It's owned by somebody else. Call up somebody else. Well, we're owned by somebody. You know how it is. It's just these huge conglomerates own the bloody world. And these guys don't give a damn about the needs of working people. So I would say that the economy becomes less and less personal. I have no, you're my worker. I have no care about you.
Well, they also, the companies have a revolving door with government policies, right? So there is something with lobbying and this thing, and it gets pretty murky and mucky. However, it should be totally fine from his perspective because his solution is the government would merge with the companies anyway. He would just argue that the companies should do what he thinks the government should force them to do, as opposed to the companies manipulating the government to do their bidding. Bernie wants them to do his bidding. So everyone's always after the government to kind of do what they think the government should do for them. And there really is no escaping that impulse from any position you have. Bernie has just made a lifetime career out of just in convoluting and making flowery, making poetic the basic assumption that he has, which is,
I want to take government. Look, companies do. They influence government to do the bidding of the companies. And what I want to do is have the government do the biddings of me.
it's like, okay, cool. So you're competing with the companies to manipulate government policy to favor who you think it should favor. Okay.
Right now, I'm owned by an international who doesn't know that you exist.
And if you're wondering how I survived for so long in my career, it's a very simple thing. To quote a line from one of my favorite movies, Dazed and Confused. My own audience, my followers, stay the same age. I keep getting older, they stay the same age. I rely on early 20s to 30s idealists. That is my shtick.
And
they get reproduced every year.
there's also a diffusion of responsibility. 'Cause
Absolutely.
It's not even in your hands.
Exactly. So the local boss might say, hey, listen, I'm really sorry, but I didn't have any decision in here.
Right. There's nothing I can do.
Nothing I can do. So I add all of that up, and you have, and then just look at other things. I mean, you tell me about the healthcare system. Does anybody in America think this healthcare system is working?
I mean, it works in some ways. I mean, certainly, like, it's the best place to be for emergencies. Now, if it puts you in debt, that's a different question as to whether it saved your life. So it's like, if something was wrong with me that was required an emergency, you know, I had a hand injury that was pretty crazy in 2013, severed my median cord, or my medium nerve. No. And I needed quick emergency microscopic nerve surgery. And it's like, whatever it is you need, if it's at the level of putting you in debt, the only question is it worth being in debt to save your life or to save your hand or something? So people make that choice. But this idea that you should be able to have like insanely complex heart surgery for free, or it should be just free, it's like, well, it gets a little complicated at that point.
Well, you could tell by the assassination, when the assassination of the United Healthcare guy,
Yep.
when that happened, there was people celebrating. When is there ever someone gets assassinated
Right.
on the streets of New York City and people celebrate?
Right. That's terrible. It's terrible, but it does speak to how people feel about insurance companies.
Right. Well, and I think rightly so, because it's not what you're paying for. What you're paying for is you're hoping.
Health price. The thing is, people aren't quite understanding this. Like, you can't plan for a crisis or an accidental thing that happens. You know, God willing, that never happens, but it happens. But if you really look at the math, it's kind of interesting. I have a friend who pays everything out of pocket. He literally saves money, and he looks at the amount he would be paying from healthcare, and you're basically paying for a product you hope you don't use. That's what's weird about healthcare, like insurance. You're paying for a product you hope you never use. Where else do you pay for a product you hope you don't use other than like a coffin? Like if you bought your coffin ahead of time, or you bought your plot of land you were going to be buried in, or something like this. Like, there's no other product, like maybe a gun, but not even that you kind of hope you use, if we're honest. Like, but other than that, like it's like one of the one things that people pay a ton of money, and their wish is they never use what they're paying into. It's a bizarre. Whereas if you save the money and you try to pay out of pocket, and you line that up against what you would otherwise be paying having no service, you're not using it. It's just going into, you're paying out. You're not using it. And then you save money, you still have a savings in money. Like, you can pull from that and use it for food. You can still pull from it. You could place it somewhere. And if all goes well, nothing happens to you, you still have some money to cover. Now, this works for the most part for general things. But everyone's sold insurance for catastrophe. Meanwhile, catastrophe wrecks your life anyway. You know what I mean? As if, like, if you get the right insurance plan and catastrophe hits, yeah, you could have a safety net, life insurance, or yeah, you could have a safety net. You're able to pay for whatever surgery you needed. But your life is still in a catastrophe. It's like, it just kind of helps. And notice that when something awful happens to somebody and they lose an arm or something worse, they're paralyzed or something, God awful, right? The first thing on their list they're concerned of is certainly not being in debt. I mean, that is like, they're not going, oh, I shoot, damn it. I should have thought about, no.
That
bulletproof vest, yeah, maybe.
You never get
toothbrush, that's fine.
Sick, but if you pay your insurance, you will be covered. What they're trying to do is make it as difficult.
That's actually still not even true. If you pay your insurance, if you really look at the rates and like basically how it works is like you pay insurance and then if your insurance covered, everything's more expensive. And then it's like, okay. People think it's the reverse. They think like, oh, everything's crazy expensive if you pay outright. Well, that's true in a sense. But if they know your insurance is paying for it, they increase the money. It's like a government. Let's say a government agency is tasked to buy and develop like nuts and bolts for something, right? They just quadruple or even more, right? They multiply by 5 times the cost. And then they buy from their friend. And the friend's like, cool. Sweet, I can jack up the price because I know the government's paying.
Difficult as possible for you to get money from
You
them.
got it. That's the more money, the more I can deny you, the more money I make.
Right, and that's the bottom line. And when you're dealing with these enormous corporations, like we're talking about, this diffusion of responsibility, the people that are doing.
We have the world's most advanced, expensive military for quote free.
Exactly. It's like, this is what I have to do. This is my job. They don't even think about it.
Right, exactly.
And this all started when? Like so Michael Moore had that brilliant documentary, Roger and Me.
Yeah. I know
that
Michael's a good friend. Yeah.
He's a great guy. That documentary is fantastic.
Michael Moore is a great guy, Joe? Sorry, what's happening? Wait, what? Did he just say that? Oh, I see an interesting debate in the chat happening here. 50 minutes. Let's reach that second goal, y'all. Give old Jimbob a good day. I have actually a torrential downpour right now. Wild outside. But I like this, what is this? Oh, I see. Hoopy Fruit, are you arguing God's a subject? Yeah, I hope someone corrected you on that.
And it shows the impact of a corporate.
Now, God, if you're going to do an internal critique of Christianity, Hoopy Fruit, God, subject means you're subject to something. So you're at the effect of. No, a Christian view of God, self-existing before creation, eternally uncreated, is not subject to anything.
Corporation taking all their factories, moving them away like that with no warning, no recourse, nothing anybody can do, decimates basically all of Detroit.
That's right.
Yes, Austin. As Austin says, send me your shekels. 5 more to go. I mean, we have 50 minutes, but, who knows what's going to happen with this storm.
Right. People don't know this.
Yeah.
But if my memory is correct.
7-figure socialists, yeah.
Detroit used to be in the 50s.
3rd richest city in the world.
You got it.
Yes. Yeah. We've talked about it multiple times.
And now it's full of people of color. Did I say that out loud?
Yeah. It's disgusting.
Right.
And especially me as someone who loves American automobiles.
Get hoppy on the Whereby link? No, nothing works right now.
I'm a big fan of
Literally
what Detroit made during that time. And to see what happened to Detroit now, The last time I was in Detroit, it actually seems to be picking up. There's a lot of small businesses and a lot of artists and a lot of people that are proud to, like Shinola, companies like that, proud to be in Detroit. But there's just so many abandoned buildings. It's insane. You could buy a house there for $500.
That's right.
It's really crazy. Like giant factories where every window's smashed, all the pipes have been torn out, and it's just this hulking
And it's not just
monument.
Detroit.
Right.
I mean, there are other communities, corporations say, hey. I mean, and
That path is unsustainable, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, and look.
Look.